We are truly excited to have the Los Angeles Jazz Society in the house. I mean, it is a one-in-a-lifetime experience for us to be able to expose our students.
Jazz is freedom, and the Los Angeles Jazz Society gives us that opportunity to share all of our experience with these young people, and that's magic.
Good evening. My name is Sullivan Fortner, and it's my honor to be a part of this celebration as we're celebrating the music and the life of the great genius, Mr. Johnny Mandel. This composition I'm going to play for you this evening is a piece that he wrote for the movie I Want to Live. This is the theme. It's entitled A Vacation from the Blues.
Welcome, everybody, and thanks to Sullivan Fortner, who opened our show in fine fashion playing Vacation from the Blues, written by Johnny Mandel and later had lyrics added by Arthur Hamilton. That's from the incredible score that he wrote for the movie I Want to Live. Stephen Hayward was directed by Robert Wise. What an influential score that was, and how modern it still sounds today. We're here saluting the 95th birthday of Johnny Mandel and how lucky we all were to have him on the scene for such a long, long time. I feel lucky to have met him at all. And I had some wonderful conversations with him over the years at events where he was conducting an all-star LA band playing his music from the Woody Herman era of the 40s, from I Want to Live from the 50s, and right up to the present day. This concert benefits the jazz education programs of the Los Angeles Jazz Society. And if you enjoy it tonight, please, please donate to the Society, because every dollar helps them continue their educational programs for the next generation of jazz artists. We want them to blossom. So go to lajazz.org to donate or even join. There's so much good music tonight. Everybody who's participating really wanted to be part of this because of their respect and admiration for Johnny. So next we have Cinnamon and Clove, which was written, or the lyrics were written by Alan and Marilyn Bergman, who enjoyed a long association with Johnny. And it's going to be sung by the 2019 LA Jazz Society Vocalist of the Year, accompanied by Max Hamer. Here is Miss Jane Monheit.
So come to my arms, I long for your kiss, the taste of the sea, salty, sweet upon your lips. There's love to be made, oh, nights such as this, and time is but sand sifting through our fingertips. The moonlight warms the silver sand, a seabird sails across the coast. The water's crystal in your hand, the air is cinnamon and clove. The tempo's easy as you please, from every lemon yellow morning through velvet evening, with breezes singing a song of cinnamon and clove. The air is cinnamon and clove, seductive cinnamon and clove. So come to my arms, I long for your kiss, the taste of the sea, soft and sweet upon your lips. There's love to be made on nights such as this, and time is but singing, sifting through our fingertips. The moon is like a tangerine, adrift upon a sea of lights, a world where nothing comes between these salty days and sultry nights, where every slice of life and love has just the perfect combination, a cup of sweetness, a pinch of sadness, a touch of cinnamon and clove. There is cinnamon and clove, seductive cinnamon and clove. So come to my arms, I long for your kiss, the taste of the sea, salty sweet upon your lips. There's love to be made, such as this. Time is worth saying, sifting through our fingertips. The moon is like a tangerine, I drift upon a sea of lights, a world where nothing comes between. These salty days and sultry nights, where every slice of life and love is just the perfect combination. A cup of sweetness, a pinch of sadness, a touch of cinnamon and clove. The air is cinnamon and clove, seductive cinnamon and clove, a touch of cinnamon and clove. Max Hamer on the piano.
The music of Johnny Mandel with the lyrics of Marilyn and Alan Bergman. Wow, does it get much better than that? Johnny's music touches me every time I hear it. I think the first thing I ever heard of his was Emily, Emily. And I can go back to that and in a heartbeat feel that magnificent, open-hearted music that he wrote. I have to say that writing words for a Johnny Mandel melody was easy because I think the words are right in what he wrote. So Johnny, I had the good fortune of spending a lot of time with Johnny for almost 20 years. We were both on the board of ASCAP, and I got to see the side of him that was just unchanged in the boardroom. Incidentally, unchanged. Johnny was the same person, whether he was standing on stage with his own band or in the recording studio with a huge orchestra. There was this he was cool. I mean, John was cool. John was all those years in the 40s and the 50s when he was out with amazing bands, it brought on a kind of cool that was just, it was a cool above cool. It was jazz cool. There's a story that they used to tell about a very square member of the audience that went in to hear a concert or went into a club. He walked up after the show to one of the musicians and he said, "Yeah, I'm hip to what you're," no, he said, "I'm hip to what you're putting down." And the musician looked at the very square guy and he said, "I'm hip, you're hip. Yeah, I'm hip, you're hip." Johnny was a higher hip. Johnny would never have said that to somebody. He might have thought it. But there was an elegance of kindness to Johnny. I had the good pleasure of sitting next to him in the boardroom for ASCAP, and I also had the great pleasure of writing lyrics to one of Johnny's songs. And, you know, it's interesting because when it was right, he gave you a little nod and he said, "That's cool, that's good." If I ever had that kind of quiet confidence, I just would, I would probably change my name, to God knows what. But I love Johnny. And think that if you look at all the people, he had this quiet sweetness about him, but he also could walk up to Sinatra and say, can we do one more? That takes an immense amount of courage, The great thing about writing with Johnny is that, that there's a pretty good chance with that melody that some wonderful talents are going to sing that song. And it's his legacy is massive. Before I introduce the lady who's going to sing the one we wrote together, I have to say something about what it was like to watch Johnny when young jazz musicians walked up to him. I never saw him quicken his step to get away. He always slowed down, turned around, and said, "Hey, yeah, cool." And then he was right there again, unchanged. He leaves a magnificent legacy, and as much as he leaves beautiful music, he leaves memories of the kind of gentleman he was. He was a giant, he was a genius, and he was a gentleman. He was a wonderful man. We actually had a chance to write together a couple of times. One of the songs that you know, the roll of the dice is you write a song and it may do well. You write a song with Johnny Mandel and you got a really good shot at having a song that years later Diane Shure might sing for some of John's friends. Ladies and gentlemen, Diane Shure.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Diane Shure, or Deedles. A lot of people call me, or Deeds. And I would like to pay tribute to Johnny Mandel, who I worked very closely with in the 80s. And but anyway, he wrote this tune, Close Enough for Love, and it's from the album Surefire with the Caribbean Jazz Project. Hope you enjoy it. You and I, an unmatched pair, took the time to touch, to share, worlds apart the night we met. We braved the odds and won the bet. Not perfect yet, but close enough for love. How old-fashioned, pure romance, shared a kiss and shared a dance, shared the body and bouquet. We'll taste the wine another day, when you and I are close enough for love. Not just lovers, more than friends. Who knows where one starts, one ends, tracing lights through sleepless nights that I'll remember always, always. Long goodbyes and tearful looks hold up well in poems and books, but you and I have life to hold, the greatest story never told. Not perfect yet, but close enough for love.
You can't mistake that voice for anyone else. That's the amazing Diane Shure. I want to thank her and also Paul Williams, songwriter, singer, master wordsmith, and president of ASCAP. Now we're going to have two younger talents with their rendition of Johnny's songs. First, vocalist Michael Mayo joins us from New York with his unique rendition of El Cajon, written by Johnny and Dave Frischberg. Dave used to tell a funny story about setting lyrics to Johnny's melody, somehow believing it was written in tribute to the California town known far, maybe not wide, as El Cajon, only to discover that the composer wrote it for tenor sax player Al Cohn. And after that, we're going to hear a powerful performer to sing one more of the Bergman songs, accompanying herself on piano. Shalea gives us I Won't Believe My Eyes.
In El Cajon, we danced the night away. In El Cajon, she said she'd like to stay. And I, despite the things I heard, was all too glad to swallow every word. But from the rosy dawn, I found to my distress my love had gone, no forwarding address. She had her fun. Now I'm the lonely one who's left alone in El Cajon. Ain't got no car, ain't got no phone in El Cajon, with just a whiff of her cologne in El Cajon. I don't deserve to be alone in El Cajon.
I've never seen you in the morning beneath the warm and drowsy sky. But oh my darling, when it happened, I bet I won't believe my eyes. I've never seen you in the twilight. I've never kissed you in the rain. Although I envy me the joy, the thrill of sights that still remain. I've never laughed across a meadow or matched our footprints in the sand. We've never gazed across a table, too much involved to hear the band. As we're discovering each other, the secret things we'll come to know. We'll be imagining the dawn, the smiles, and all the miles to go. I see my life with you before me, one long continuing surprise. And though I'm hardly what you'd call naive, I won't believe my Wow. This moment is so special for me because I met Johnny Mandel when I was doing a tribute to my beloved Alan and Marilyn Bergman at the Los Angeles Jazz Society. And here I am, a complete full circle,
Now honoring Johnny at the Los Angeles Jazz Society, singing a song that my beloved, sweet Alan and Marilyn Bergman wrote the lyrics to. Johnny, your music will last forever. You are immortal. So happy heavenly birthday.
The Los Angeles Jazz Society was founded in 1983, committed to elevating the image of jazz and its artists in the community. They did this by initiating an annual Jazz Tribute Awards concert, beginning with honoring trumpet master Harry Sweets Edison, followed by other jazz legends over the years, including Shelly Manne, Herbie Hancock, and the great Ray Brown.
Here is the bass player's tribute to Ray Brown.
Dedicated to preserving jazz as the great American gift to the world of music, the Jazz Society knew its preservation depended on future generations. So they initiated jazz education programs for young people. Hundreds of young jazz musicians have graduated from its mentorship program, which provides 10 weeks of free training in advanced music techniques from professional musician teachers individually and in group workshops.
We have to make it really deliberate and over-exaggerate everything. Okay,
so just that little much right there, we could improve by playing some of the alternate positions.
This program is great because not only do you get real band experience with talented students, but you also get to be mentored by very outstanding teachers, and I really enjoy this program.
The program has helped launch careers in jazz for countless young musicians. But musicians need an audience, and today's audiences are older and diminishing. Seeking to provide that future audience, the Los Angeles Jazz Society created Jazz in Schools, and since its beginning in 1988, the program has introduced the joy of jazz to over 225,000 elementary school children with free, exciting, interactive educational concerts in schools.
Jazz is America's music. This is Black History Month. It started in New Orleans, Louisiana.
They learn about jazz music, its instruments, styles,
Wookie, can you say that for me?
history, and artists.
Do you love that
Teachers say they remember everything and talk about the concert.
It's just a wonderful opportunity for our children to be exposed to the contributions that our various cultures have contributed to our society.
Post-concert letters from students talk about how much they love jazz and want to continue hearing it.
It was good. I loved it. I wish they could do it again sometime. They were fantastic.
The Jazz Society's latest project is New Note, which provides commissions for your composers and is premiered at a local jazz festival. Please visit lajazz.org for membership and other information. Help the Los Angeles Jazz Society keep jazz alive.
Talk about reach and outreach. Here we are on Zoom. Up to now, a sound effect in a Roadrunner cartoon, but now everybody's on Zoom. And I'm watching the people as they check in, as they log in here for this concert tonight. We've got people watching and listening everywhere from Burbank to Brooklyn, from Texas to Miami, Florida, to up in Vancouver, BC in Canada. There's no limit to what jazz aficionados will do to hear this music that we love so much. And to keep it alive, the LA Jazz Society presents Jazz in Schools to 20,000 children every year. They run the Bill Green Mentorship Program, which includes 20 to 25 young musicians who get 10 weeks of mentoring, the New Note competition for young jazz composers, and much more. Then there's LA Jazz Presents, which, by the way, pays every musician who participates. The Jazz Society needs your support. If you enjoy programs like this, or the ones you've just heard about, please visit lajazz.org to donate or even become a member. Now on with our program. Next up is the renowned pianist Mike Lang, who puts his special touches on Rainy Afternoon, a song that had lyrics composed by Lorraine Feather. Then we'll hear some words from the great Terry Gibbs, and then another Dave Frischberg tune sung by the double Grammy-nominated vocalist Sarah Gazzara, accompanied by the brilliant young jazz pianist Gerald Clayton.
Hi, I'm Mike Lang, for those of you who don't know me. I'm really honored to be a part of this tribute to Johnny Mandel. As a freelance recording musician for many, many years, I had many occasions to work with John on films, on recording sessions, a few live gigs with his big band, and I got to know him in a really wonderful, intimate way. And as everybody here will tell you in their own experience, he was magical. He was totally unexpected with his behavior. He could be very funny. He could be very warm. He could be very communicative with fewer words than others. And at the end of the day, his music just spoke mountains to all of us. I was asked to think of a story, and there's so many. I tried to pick one that I thought would be appropriate for today. One of the things that happened for me was I got a call to record on an album project that he was arranging for Barbra Streisand. And John and I had worked on a lot of different things prior to that. And so I think we were at Capitol Records, and I walked in, and he was at the podium, and as I was walking toward the piano, I just waved. And he went like this, "Come here, come here." So I went over and I said, "Hi, how are you?" I said, "This is a thrill to be here." And he says, "Mike," he says, "this is the first time I've ever worked with Barbra Streisand." And he had concern, you know. And I said, "John," I said, "first of all, if she hired you, she knows your work. She didn't just hire you blindly. She knows what you're going to give her, and she's going to love it. You're already like accepted. Just enjoy the experience. It's going to be fantastic." So he heard it. I don't know that it made him feel that much better. But so I went to the piano, and eventually the date started. And what normally happens in a session like this is that the arranger will, run down and rehearse the music with the orchestra. And very often the artist or the producer might have things that they suggest, and eventually we get to the point where we're in a record mode. Barbara had already located herself in the vocal booth, so she wasn't out there with us. And we ran it down once. And very often with Barbara, her first reactions are, there's a lot. She has a lot of things she wants to say immediately. And she was trying to get John's attention to give him this laundry list of whatever it might be. And I don't know if John was aware that she was trying to get his attention and ignored her, which is what I prefer to believe, or if he just didn't see it. Because what he then did was, he decided to, he just said, "Let's play it again." And when we played it again, she had a second chance to hear it. And the result was that her laundry list diminished considerably. And she had mostly nice things to say about the arrangement, and the date went really well. It was really successful. And I was just a very interesting set of circumstances. So that was a wonderful Johnny Mandel story for me. I only want to say additionally that this song I'm about to play for you, Rainy Afternoon, is a song that nobody knows, because Lorraine Feather, the lyricist, did a recording and it never was released. And so I was given the music to look at. I haven't heard any versions of it. I just kind of tried to find my own way with the song. It has an amazing lyric by Lorraine, and that's our dog. He's a hound dog. He wants to be on camera. He's a poodle. Anyway, it's a wonderful song. It has an unusual structure for those of you musicians. The normal A-A-B-A structure of 8-bar phrases is, in this situation, the A sections are 12 bars. So it was an interesting thing to encounter. And I'm just so happy. I think this may be a world premiere of the song, so I feel very special about the whole thing. Thank you.
Okay, Johnny and I met in 1944 when I was in the Army home on furlough. A very ultra talented person who left us too early called Tiny Khan introduced us. And we hit it off immediately. In fact, in 1947, we both were on Buddy Rich's band for about 6 months. And those days, we were both young. I was a player, but I used to do a lot of writing. And all the songs I wrote, Johnny would write an arrangement for us to play with Buddy Rich's band. And Johnny always thought I was going to be the writer and he'd be an arranger writing for singers or whatever, you know. And we both left the band after 6 months. I went back to New York, and Johnny moved down to Los Angeles to work out a union card because you couldn't work doing any kind of work because the union was strong and you had to live somewhere 6 months before you can get a union card. Anyhow, Johnny was here in California, down in LA, and I was back to New York. And immediately got a call to join the Woody Herman band. And we came right out to California. And when I got to California, I joined Johnny and moved in with him. So we lived together for a month. And while I was on the band there and we're living with Johnny, Woody Herman called Johnny and asked him to write an original song and arrangement for him. And which was an honor for Johnny because the writers on Woody's band those days were Ralph Burns and Shorty Rogers and Neil Hefti. So Johnny really felt great having to do one of them. And so anyhow, he had a Model A or a Model T or whatever. It was like a piece of garbage. He took me to work every day. And in the meantime, something I didn't mention before is that Johnny was working at Thrifty's because he needed money while he was working on his card. And when we came to town, he wouldn't, we went to see him because we all loved him, but he wouldn't serve us unless we gave him a 10-cent tip those days. And because the guys would not tip him at all because they were his friends. So he wouldn't serve you. So anyhow, getting back to Johnny writing this arrangement, I'd go to work and I'd come back and I asked Johnny, how'd it go? And he said, I couldn't think of anything to write today. This, it's an original song. I got to do great because of who I'm writing for. In the meantime, I see a trash bag can full of manuscript there, And for 4 days in a row, I swear, 4 days, probably, maybe more, I come back and I say, how did it go? He said, I couldn't think of anything to write. But that trash can was full of paper, music paper. Now, if I would have taken that music paper home with me and collected it, I would have written The Shadow of Your Smile. I would have written Emily. I would have written, it was probably all that trash can because Johnny never wrote a bad thing in his life. And that's my great story about Johnny. I loved him and he's a year older than him. Every time we would call each other on our birthdays, we talked. In fact, I talked to him about maybe a week before he passed because we were the only two left that whole era of musicians that knew each other, who were very famous jazz musicians. And he was at my house for dinner sometime last year before he died. But losing him was a big drag because we were the only two people we used to talk to each other a lot. And we talked about the old days with all these great musicians that we all played with. Anyhow, Johnny, wherever you are, happy birthday. And if you're upstairs when I leave, I'll join you. If you're downstairs, I'll come down there too. Love you, Johnny.
Hello and good evening. My name is Sarah Kazarek, and I'm here in my home in Los Angeles with pianist extraordinaire and my good friend, the wonderful Gerald Clayton. We're so excited to be here with you tonight, celebrating the music of one of the greatest songwriters of the Great American Standard Songbook of all time, the one and only Johnny Mandel. I had the privilege of meeting Johnny once in my life, and it was an extraordinary occasion, to say the least. But we're so grateful to have his music as we move forward into the world without him. And we'd like to celebrate him with another song of his tonight. This is Johnny Mandel's and Dave Frischberg's Little Did I Dream. Little did I dream when first we collided Love was on the scene and fate had decided it was time that we met. And little did I ever dream all that I could do was stammer and stumble. Didn't have a clue I'd soon take a tumble I would never regret. And little did I ever dream cause I didn't see the great adventure that was waiting for me. I knew exactly where my future would be. I had it all mapped out with no doubt, but bumping into you was so unexpected. You came into view, we clicked and connected. It was fate, I suppose, and things are seldom what they seem. And one never knows, but little did I ever dream. Little did I dream. Cause I couldn't see the great adventure that was waiting for me. I knew exactly what my future would be. I had it all mapped out. I had it all mapped out with no doubt, but bumping into you was so unexpected. You came into view, we clicked and connected. It was fate, I suppose, but things are seldom what they seem. And one never knows. One never knows. One never knows. And little did I ever dream.
Oh, wasn't that tasty? Boy, Sarah Kazarek and Gerald Clayton. Well, in recent years, Scott Whitfield was working with Johnny quite a bit, conducting his orchestra. He, along with Ginger Berglund on vocals, recorded many of Johnny's compositions. So here's another beautiful piece. We keep doing this for the rest of the week. It's another beautiful piece co-written with the Bergmans, a waltz from somewhere, with a few photos taken along the way.
I hear a waltz night in a sky of blue.
I close my eyes, it's summer, a garden in bloom, a bench with just room for two. Green were the days, the world was young,
and songs were sung of true love. Waltzes are made of memories.
I smile as I find what they call to mind.
I'm always with you, and we're dancing through our walls.
See your face, I feel a thrill,
and know I will each morning. And as we spend tomorrows, the memories won't fade,
not even a shade,
as long as there's you and we're dancing too.
Well, I am now speaking to a man who doesn't need any introduction to anyone watching, and that's Mr. Herb Alpert. Thank you for joining us, Herb.
Absolutely fine. Thank you for, I'm more than happy to be part of this. I love Johnny Mandel.
How did you know him?
Well, gee, I knew his work long before I knew him. You know, he lived about 1.5 miles from me here in Malibu, and he was really a special guy. He was soft-spoken, very, I say he was an introvert. I'm a card-carrying introvert, and I think he was pretty much an introvert. But he was a lovely person, man. He was always so engaging. He was always interested in my life and what I was doing, and as much as I was interested in his life. So we were just good friends. I made a point of calling him every New Year's Eve, and we would chit chat. He was very supportive, very, you know, the type of friend you'd like to have. He was involved in my life. I was involved somewhat in his life, and certainly knew the great things that he was doing with his life. Since the man, unbelievable, since the 40s, he was, I mean, even to think that he wrote charts for Count Basie, you know, it's like mind-boggling what he did, and all these beautiful songs that he wrote. And he was over one afternoon, and he started playing piano for me in my studio here. And man, he was playing these chords that were just like luscious chords. It was hard to like even try to blow the horn against it. I know he was playing notes I never heard, but it was lovely.
Well, he had that kind of a mind, didn't he? His arrangements are often the later years when he's writing charts for singers to work with. Lush is the word that comes to mind.
Well, I'll tell you, Leonard, he was invested in every note that he played, every note that he wrote down. I mean, I had an experience with him. I mean, this is a little off from what I started talking about him. He did this arrangement for me. I was recording this artist, Letta Mbulu from South Africa, and Johnny did the string chart for it. And there was one section there that when I thought it was just a little too busy, it was a little too congested. I just wanted it to be more open. So I took that part out in the recording. And this was at A&M in our Studio B. And I remember walking out of the studio, and he was sitting on the bench in the hallway there. And he was like, I mean, I thought he was crying. I mean, he was very unhappy that I did that. He just thought it was like it belonged there. It should have been there. And how can you take it out? And for about a half hour there, we were at odds. You know, it's like, you know, that's just the way I felt it. I mean, I just felt it was a little too much at that one little spot. And it took him a little while to cool off of it. But that was the time I realized, man, this guy is he was an artist, a real. Yeah. When you talk about artists, you talk about Johnny Mandel. He was special.
Yeah. That's a very telling story, actually. You know, it says a lot about you know, his dedication and his the fact that he cared so much.
Oh, he cared
everything he worked on.
When I said he was invested in each note, he was. It was like special. I mean, every little detail that he came up with was all something that was well thought out. It was spontaneous, but it was there, and it was there because there was a special reason. But it's amazing when you go deeper into the whole thing, when there's only like 12 notes that we're all using. There's only 12 notes in the Western lexicon that everyone uses. Mozart had those notes. Beethoven had those notes. Thelonious Monk had those notes. Miles had the same notes. Everyone's playing, and it can be scrambled up in so many different ways, with rhythms and voicings, etc. And that's what's so beauty about the arts. It's endless in the hands of somebody that really has the goods, and Johnny had the goods.
Johnny had the goods and never lost that quality or that ability.
I don't think not only did he not lose it, he seemed like he got better all the time. He learned from each experience. I mean, he was an artist.
And now I'm going to introduce the renowned 5-time Grammy Award winner, jazz legend Diane Reeves, who's going to perform A Time for Love by Paul Francis Webster and Johnny. She's joined by the amazing Brazilian guitarist Romero Lubambo, who recorded it in his native Brazil and sent it to her in Denver, Colorado. This is a long-distance collaboration for which we're all very grateful.
A time for summer skies, for hummingbirds and butterflies, for tender words that harmonize with love. A time for climbing hills, for leaning out of windowsills, admiring the daffodils above. A time for holding hands together. A time for rainbow-colored weather. A time of make-believe that we've been dreaming of. As time goes drifting by, the willow bends, and so do I. But oh, my friends, whatever sky above, I know a time for spring, a time for fall, but best of all, a time for a time for holding hands together. A time for rainbow-colored weather. A time of make-believe that we've been dreaming of. As time goes drifting by, the willow bends, and so do I. But oh, my friends, whatever sky above, I know a time for spring, a time for fall, but best of all, a time for love. Oh, a time for
I'm just going to sigh here for a minute. Wow. Beautiful, Diane. And thanks to Zoom for making that possible. Now, two more tunes. First, Tammy McCann sing Unless It's You, accompanied by Fareed Hawk on guitar, lyrics by singer-songwriter Morgan Ames. And then another from the Bergman collaborations, I've Been Around, performed by Sarah Gazarek with, again, Gerald Clayton on piano.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and we bring you greetings from the great state of Wisconsin. My name is Tammy McCann.
And I am Fareed Haq.
And we're so thrilled to share this wonderful evening with you in tribute to Mr. Johnny Mandel. This is Unless It's You. I wonder why I've loved so few. I guess I'm shy. I'm just like you. And so I try to turn away. Though you're the sky to me, the joy to me, the day. Sometimes I stray and think I'm free. Then in your way, you reach for me. I know I'll stay. I always do. For what is love to me unless it's you? I wonder why I've loved so few. I guess I'm shy. I'm just like you. And so I try to turn away. Though you're the sky to me, the joy to me, the day. At times I stray and think I'm free. Then in your way, you reach for me. I know I'll stay. I always do. For what is love to me unless it's you?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Sarah Gazarek, and I'm back with my good friend Gerald Clayton with another Johnny Mandel song, this time in collaboration with the great Alan and Marilyn Bergman. I hadn't known previously of this song, and I'm so glad now that I know it. It's so sweet. This song is called I've Been Around. Traveled quite extensively, conscientiously, occupied with a chase, and managed to successfully and quite easily dodge that singular face that I could never begin to erase. I've seen them all, the wild and unconventional, one-dimensional, with a tired routine. Then there's the cute, but critical, sweet, but cynical, bent on making the scene. And don't forget all the types in between. It was a question of timing and other things, till you came along and you clipped my wings. I'm loving the falling and all it brings, without a net and without regret. I'm happy to say that I can state reliably, undeniably, you are one of a kind. And let me add emphatically, I'm ecstatically, clearly out of my mind. You're driving me wild to the point of distraction. You are my final attraction, so I'm no longer around. But I've been around. I've traveled quite extensively, conscientiously occupied with the chase, and managed to successfully and quite easily dodge that singular face that I could never begin to erase. I've seen them all, the wild and unconventional, one-dimensional, with a tired routine. Then there's the cute, but critical, sweet, but cynical, bent on making the scene. Woo. And don't forget all the types in between. It was a question of timing and other things, till you came along and you clipped my wings. I'm loving the falling and all it brings, without a net and without regret. I'm happy to say that I can share reliably, undeniably, you are one of a kind. And let me add emphatically, I'm ecstatically, clearly out of my mind. You're driving me wild to the point of distraction. You're my final attraction, so I'm no longer around, no longer around, no longer around.
My name's Morgan Ames. Thanks to Cher Lilico and the LA Jazz Society for inviting me. This is a picture of Johnny Mandel. It was taken by Les McCann in the 70s when we were all children. We were in diapers. And while I'm up, the pictures on the wall behind me, those are watercolors also by the great Les McCann, who has been indeed honored by the Jazz Society, not for his photos, but for his piano playing. So a little story about Johnny. I met him in 1960-something in Big Sur. And it was at the Big Sur Lodge, actually. Johnny was there working on the Sandpiper. Dreadful movie with gorgeous scenery. Johnny told me once that he just scored it as a travelogue. And I was there working with John Derek on a soft porn movie starring Bo. So I was playing the piano in the Big Sur Lodge after dinner, and this guy came up and sat next to me and said, "You sound like I do when you play piano." And that was Johnny. I was very aware of this, the Susan Hayward movie, I Want to Live. I was very aware of Johnny in jazz. So it was the beginning of a gorgeous friendship that lasted for the rest of our lives, at least his. And one other story. Before Johnny died, he was at Marissa's, at his daughter's house, Marissa and Lauren. And he was very ill. He was dying, and he couldn't sleep. He was very restless. So he finally did sleep. And in the middle of the night, but they were all there in the room, he sat straight up in bed and said, "Fuck John Williams." You sort of have to know that great friendship and the world of these guys, how they loved each other. But I just laughed hysterically when I heard that story. You don't have to tell this story if you don't want. Okay, here's a song that I wrote with Johnny from Harper, another forgettable movie with the gorgeous guy, Paul Newman. Take two. Share. It's dawn when I reach the door. Darling, what do I have in store? Only the quiet prayer. You're waiting quietly there. Quietly there. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks to you, Morgan. That was Quietly There, a song she co-wrote with Johnny Mandel, Morgan Ames. Johnny joined forces with Peggy Lee to write and record our next song in 1967, but you won't hear the lyrics tonight. You'll just hear the wonderful piano work of Tamir Hendelman performing The Shining Sea.
Johnny Mandel was the most wonderful combination of film writer and jazz composer. These next two melodies are from his movie The Russians Are Coming. Here's Seascape, and written with Peggy Lee, The Shining Sea.
Beautiful. It occurs to me, and it's probably occurred to you guys by now, we're listening to some of the finest singers and musicians on the planet. And it's not a coincidence that they're all performing at this event, this virtual concert. It's because they love Johnny Mandel and they love his music. Our next guest needs little introduction. He is the keeper of the Great American Songbook and a huge fan of Johnny's, another song penned by the Bergmans. In fact, he was the first one to record this gem. My great pleasure to introduce Michael Feinstein with Where Do You Start?
Where do you start? How do you separate the present from the past? How do you deal with all the things you thought would last that didn't last? With bits of memory scattered here and there, I look around and don't know where to start. Which books are yours? Which tapes and dreams belong to you and which are mine? Our lives are tangled like the branches of a vine that intertwine. So many habits that we'll have to break, and yesterdays we'll have to take apart. One day there'll be a song or something in the air again to catch me by surprise, and you'll be there again. A moment in what might have been. Where do you start? Do you allow yourself a little time to cry? Or do you close your eyes and kiss it all goodbye? I guess you try. And though I don't know where and don't know when, I'll find myself in love again. I promise there will always be a little place no one will see, a tiny part deep in my heart that stays in love with
Hi, I'm Diana Krall, and I want to wish Johnny Mandel a very happy birthday. And I also wanted to share this letter that I keep with me always that was written to me by Johnny. And it's on his beautiful stationery and handwritten. I'm so thankful that I have it. It's his ideas and thoughts that were sent to me. And it's always beautiful to have a letter from somebody that you love. And I keep it very close. I keep it tucked into my piano all the time. So whenever I'm playing, Johnny, you're always with me. All my love to you. All my love.
Several years ago, at the Old Jazz Bakery, there was a concert celebrating the release of a book of Johnny Mandel's great songs. I got to be part of that show, and Johnny asked me to sing this next song, which was already one of my very favorites. This is a great song with lyrics by Dave Frischberg, music by Johnny Mandel. You Are There.
In the evening, when the kettle's on for tea, an old familiar feeling settles over me, and it's your face I see, and I believe that you are there.
in a garden. When I stop to touch a rose and feel the petals soft and sweet against my nose, I smile and I suppose that somehow maybe you are there. When I'm dreaming and I find myself awake without a warning, and I rub my eyes and fantasize, and all at once I realize it's morning, and my fantasy is fading like a distant star at dawn. My dearest dream is gone. I often think there's just one thing to do: pretend the dream is true and tell myself that you are there. When I'm dreaming and I find myself awake without a warning, and I rub my eyes and fantasize, and all at once I realize it's morning, and my fantasy is fading like a distant star at dawn. My dearest dream is gone. I often think there's just one thing to do: pretend the dream is true and tell myself that you are there.
I think that may be my all-time favorite Johnny Mandel song. And that, of course, was 9-time Grammy nominee Tierney Sutton performing with Tamir Hendel. Before that was that lovely message from Diana Krall. And I'm going to continue by introducing another one of the great musicians in our lives, live.
Hello.
Okay, and there he is, Roger Kellaway.
Oh, hello, Leonard.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. It's kind of odd circumstances, but yes, nice to see you. Nice to commemorate Johnny Mandel.
Exactly. That's the positive here. We're sorry that he's gone, but his music, thank goodness, is here.
Yes.
You're going to play All I Want for Christmas Is You, are you not?
I am going to play that, but I'm going to tell this one short story about a time in the 80s when I spent more time with Johnny. One day I called him and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm writing a song." I said, "Oh, that's easy. And like that, he said, not a good one. So a couple of years ago, I was talking with Alan Bergman and I was saying, I'm working on a Christmas album, and Alan says to me, well, gee, I hope you're doing our song. I said, what song? I didn't know you wrote a Christmas song. He said, yeah, we wrote a Christmas song with Johnny Mandel. And it's called All I Want for Christmas Is You. Now, for the students of music, I want you to understand this line. There's an ascending line in this song that I think is the most beautiful ascending line that I've ever heard in my entire life. So listen to this. So, let's see, where are we? But there isn't a line in the history of music like that. It's absolutely gorgeous. So listen for that as I play this song.
Thank you, Ron. This next beautiful Mandel melody, with lyrics by Alan and Marilyn Bergman, received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Song. It was written for the film Molly and Lawless John. Here to talk about his friend Johnny and to perform Take Me Home is Alan Bergman, accompanied by Mitchell Form.
Johnny Mandel, Mandel to his friends, and that's probably everybody here. You all know his music. You all know his wonderful gifts, melodically, harmonically. There is a Mandel signature to everything he wrote, be it a score, a song, or an arrangement. And there are a couple of changes that have his name on them. Johnny could write anything. He was one of a handful of composers who were as skillful at scoring films as they are at writing songs and at writing magnificent arrangements. His influence on jazz came from being on the road with Stan Getz, Alec Cohn, Zoot, Max, Dizzy, Miles Davis, and the Count Basie Band. There isn't a jazz musician who doesn't want to play a Mandel tune. Marilyn and I are proud to be among those fortunate enough to have worked with John and to call him our friend. Mandel, we salute you. Take me home, take me in, kiss away where I've been. Take me home, take me there, make me safe, make me warm, make me stay, make me care. Be my long journey's end. Be my lover, my friend. Take my word, I'll be true. Take my hand, take me home with you. A river runs to find the sea. A swallow flies from tree to tree. A pebble rolls from door to door until the day it finds that it can roll no more. Take me home, take me in, kiss away where I've been. Take me home, take me there, make me safe, make me warm, make me stay, make me care. Be my long journey's end. Be my lover, my friend. Take my word, I'll be true. Take my hand, take me home with you.
Continuing in the Bergman-Mandel mother lode, it's a pleasure to introduce three-time Grammy honoree, the extraordinary singer, composer, visual artist, Cecile McLaurin-Savant, performing Solitary Moon, accompanied by Sullivan Fortner, followed by a second song written with Arthur Hamilton, played by Grammy-nominated pianist Gerald Clayton, I Never Told You, live from Altadena.
When the night is wrapped around us and the dawn might come too soon, when the only light that's found us is the solitary moon, when the songbird in the willow sings a soft and soulful tune, once again you share my pillow, making love to me tenderly here as we share the silent moon. As it slowly sails above us in its solitary flight, seems the moon must surely love us as it bathes us in its light. Say that we can spend the day here through a sunlit afternoon. Let your kisses say you'll stay here and make love to me tenderly here as we share the silent moon. Let your kisses say you'll stay here and make love to me tenderly here as we share the silent moon. The solitary moon.
Well, our next guest should need no introduction to anyone who's hip enough to be tuning in tonight. And it's Mary Stallings, a wonderful, wonderful singer with a lot of experience under her belt, and certainly a woman who is a judge of good songs. Mary, it's wonderful to have you here.
Well, it's wonderful to be here. And with our new technology, this is really new to me, so it's all cool.
Yes, it is amazing that we can be doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to begin by asking if you have any memory of Johnny Mandel.
Well, it was years ago that I was invited to a workshop, a summer workshop that was conducted by John Clayton. And that particular engagement, I had a chance to meet for the first time Johnny Mandel. And I went to him and told him how much I just adored his music. And I was so grateful to be able to get a chance to record one of his songs. And he was so gracious. And we had a few little chats, few words. Of course, there's a lot of people who wanted to talk to him. So it was very brief, but it was a nice meeting, For such a gentleman.
Memories like that are what make up a lifetime, aren't they?
Absolutely. I've had a chance to meet many people in that way, just by chance, Yeah.
I have to confess, I was not familiar with the song "Don't Look Back" until I learned that we were going to play your recording of it. What a wonderful song.
Isn't it though? It was the perfect timing for me to record that particular song. I heard it melodically years prior. Then Kay Lawrence Dunham put the lyrics to it, and it really came to life for me. It has for me, a very spiritual connotation, very heartfelt feeling to it. And then with the lyrics, it just became alive to me. It was really a story that I needed to tell because I was at that place at that time. Yes, so it was a beautiful song. But he's written so many wonderful songs, my God.
Well, yes. But it's kind of exciting to discover one. For me, it's exciting to discover one that I didn't know.
Right.
It means that there must be more out there that I could learn to know.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, because he's been writing some wonderful, and I love this, I love the scores that he has written too, because
sure.
The one "I Want to Live," I became alive when I saw that movie. It was just so, the music was just so it just it stole your soul. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
It was just, it brought you in. So I always remembered that.
Yeah.
That, and made the movie even more compelling.
Mary, not every vocalist could be nonchalant about doing those octave leaps back and forth that this song asks you to do. But you handle it perfectly.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I when I was younger, I had quite a range. As you get older, you lose a lot of that, but you gain other things. But yeah, that was a song that was actually, when you love something, you find your way around it anyway. And like I said, melodically, lyrically, it was just so perfect for me. So it was easy for me to, do the mechanics of the song.
Right. Well, we're going to hear it for ourselves right now. And Mary, thanks again for participating in this evening.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, really and truly. Yes. So I know there'll be a lot of people adding their love to his music, and it's just wonderful. He deserves it very much so. Yeah. Well, his music lives on for sure.
And now let's listen to Mary Stallings singing "Don't Look Back."
Don't back. The past doesn't matter now. You know that love can turn into tears. Don't look back. If you want your heart to stay forever young, let go of those memories of songs your heart has sung. Go your way and don't look back. That's just what I tell myself. Be sure you know it's now that you live. Who cares to feel what went on before? As far as love's concerned, all those dreams have disappeared and never will return. Don't look back. That's just what I tell myself. Be sure you know it's now that you live. Who cares to feel what concerned. All those dreams have disappeared and never will return. Never will return. Never will return.
Hey, Kurt Elling.
Hey, John Clayton.
How you doing?
Feeling better now.
You looking good.
Woo, chasing you.
I'm trying to find that right tempo for our tune.
Aha.
How's that feel right there?
You know your tempos.
Okay, we'll do it right there. We got to get it right for Johnny Mandel, right?
Hey, why show up to the gig
Here we go.
otherwise?
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Living without you doesn't matter to me. Don't have to miss a single show on TV. No one to tell me I should straighten my tie. Finally, I'm carefree. There's just no end to all the things I can do without you. There's much more room without you. Here's another thing. There's no one to wake me when I'm sleeping in late. No one to tell me that I need to lose weight. No one to try and fool around with my dreams. Life's gonna be less confused. My friends all tell me I'll be happier soon without you. Someday soon without you. We started out with such a flair. We were such a perfect pair. It was paradise, at least for a while. Now that you mention it, there's not much to do without you. Kind of blue without you. We started out with such a flair. We were such a perfect pair. It was paradise, at least for a while. Now that you mention it, there's not much to do. Hands in my pockets, staring down at my shoes. Truth is that lately I have been kind of blue without you. I'm kind of blue without you. My tie's askew without you. There is no glue without you. What to do without you? You know it's my Waterloo without you. I boo-hoo without you.
I don't want to forget to thank Eric Reed, who accompanied the great Mary Stallings on Don't Look Back. That last song was Living Without You, written by Randy Goodrum, and of course that was Kurt Elling and our own John Clayton. Next, an incredibly famous and multi-recorded song, maybe the most recorded song in the Mandel songbook. It's the love theme from The Sandpiper, a totally forgettable movie with an unforgettable theme. Sung for us now by Anne Hampton Callaway, The Shadow of Your Smile.
The shadow of your smile when kissed your lips, and so did I. Now when I remember spring and all the joy that love can bring, I will be remembering the shadow of your smile. Our wistful little star was far too high. A teardrop kissed your lips, and so did I. Now I remember spring and all the joy that love can bring. I will be remembering the shadow of your smile. Now when I remember spring and all the joy that love can bring, I'll be remembering. I will be remembering. I will be remembering the shadow of your
So much beautiful music, so much. And there's more to come, believe me. Our next song was written with Johnny Mercer, the great Johnny Mercer, for the movie The Americanization of Emily in 1964. And we're going to hear a special performance of it tonight by our musical director for the evening, John Clayton. John, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good.
And with you is your son.
My son Gerald is here too.
Do you mind if I interrupt our little conversation to read something that Dave Grusin sent along?
Please do.
Well, as we heard before, good friends of Johnny Mandel called him Mandel. And this is what Dave Grusin sent for us to read, for me to read tonight. Quote, when John and I were writing charts for the Andy Williams Show in the early 1960s, he had an opportunity to write a film score for The Americanization of Emily, starring Julie Andrews. He took a sabbatical and went to Europe to work on some themes. Called when he got back and asked me to come over and do a keyboard demo. He lived up the hill from me on Laurel Canyon. When I got to his house, he gave me 2 lead sheets, Emily 1 and Emily 2. He'd come up with 2 beautiful themes and couldn't decide between them. So he thought he'd show them both to the producer, Marty Ransohoff, and let him make the decision. All of John's signature elements were there in both tunes. Incredible melodies, beautiful harmony, fantastic voice leading. We got them recorded over the weekend, and he took them to Marty on Monday. He called me that night to give me the verdict. Marty loved them both, and he couldn't make up his mind. 2 days later, he made his decision. Emily 1 got the gig, but hold the phone. He had another film that Emily 2 might be perfect for called The Sandpiper. So Emily 2 became The Shadow of Your Smile, and John Mandel nailed 2 film scores with 1 trip, and scored a Grammy and an Oscar with that song, and cemented his stature as a go-to film composer forever. Long live the Mandel, unquote. John, can you put in words why you think that song has been so durable?
It has, to me, all of those Johnny Mandel elements. Johnny used to say about the Bergmans, for instance, that when they write lyrics, they go for the jugular. I always felt that he was being humble and selfless, because that's what I feel about his music. When he writes melodies, there's no messing around. He's going to reach inside your stomach and pull everything out of it, with incredible melodies that always make sense. Not that you can always anticipate them, but they're always satisfying. And they're just, I have so many Johnny Mandel stories, as do many of the people that were blessed to be able to work with him. And I won't share them all now, any of them now really, except to say that Johnny Mandel is the reason that we're here tonight. And I thank all of the artists that I called. None of them said, I'm sorry, but no, everyone said yes. And that's not just doing me favors. That shows the love and respect that they had for Johnny Mandel, as do I. So I also want to remind everybody that all of this beautiful music has another purpose, and that is to raise money for the LA Jazz Society. So do donate if you can. But mostly, I just want to play Johnny Mandel's Emily and share that with you. Thank you, everybody.
Oh boy. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you, John. I don't know who or what could follow that musically, but we do have somebody very special to say hello to right now. It's Johnny Mandel's daughter, Marissa, who's joining us from the Adirondacks, from the snowy Adirondacks.
Well, soon to be snowy. Currently a bit of rain, soon snow.
Well, we're glad you're here. Marissa, you grew up surrounded by this music. Can you put into words what that was like?
I'm spoiled, really. I don't know. That was a wonderful evening. I'm blown away. I don't know what to say. My dad would be so proud. Thank you, everyone, so much. It was, I don't know. I think that my dad taught me so much about music, and he, I don't know, he was very fussy about what he liked and didn't like. And I know he would have been blown away by what he heard tonight. And he, based on what he taught me, I am too. And what a birthday tribute and wonderful memorial at a time when, we can't really do that. This is just unbelievable.
But long distance and technology, to our credit, we did.
Yes.
And I'm glad we could. I'm so glad you're here too. I know everyone must feel the same as I, that it's all the more special to share it with you.
Yes. Thank you so much. That was terrific. And thank you to the LA Jazz Society and for everything that you do and all your important programs.
Thank you for being here, Marissa.
Okay.
Stay warm. Stay safe.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm excited to hear what's next from Sherry and Dee.
That's right. Well, there is one more to go. And it's the one that probably has been played and heard more than anything else Johnny Mandel wrote. Now, what could that possibly be? Well, it would, of course, be the theme from MASH, which was commissioned by the director of MASH, Robert Altman. But it had a melody pretty soon, thanks to Johnny, but it didn't have a lyric until Altman gave the assignment to his teenage son, who very quickly dashed off a lyric and completed the assignment. And it was recorded now by Sherry Miracle and the Diva Big Band. So let's listen to their version of the song from MASH, Or Suicide is Painless.
Now here's a little something you might have heard once or twice. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, we want to round things out by thanking some of the sponsors who helped to bring this event to you. The Adler Deutsch Foundation, the Herb Alpert Foundation, ASCAP, James and Carol Barral, Howard and Kathy Stone, K-Jazz, Howard Banchik, Lucy and Mike Peak, Corky Hale and Mike Stoller, Deborah and William Cruz. Please watch the list at the end of the program for the other generous supporters. And if you enjoyed this event, I hope you did, please support the LA Jazz Society. Go to the website, www.lajazz.org, and donate. And maybe join as well. I'm a member, you should be too. Thank you all for being part of what I think was a very special and lovely evening. Good night.